It's working, it's working.
Yay.
It's alive.
Not really.
I want to know what the hell is going on.
3, 2, 1.
Some of these came across
Oh my
way
God,
late.
You're both so
Yeah,
late.
well, get over it.
Late again, are we?
Yes, I hope I'm not pregnant.
What?
It must be all of the climate change and the war and all of the
Daylight fucking
the
savings
Epsteins
time.
and the
Gas.
daylight savings and student loans and rising prices and gas and welcome to Screen Share and Chill. I'm Kelly.
I'm Keith.
I'm Jamie.
We're a podcast that likes to talk about movies. During the pandemic, we started forcing each other to watch movies, and it just kind of carried over, and we had a great time. I mean, you ever wanted to like sit your friend down and say, you are going to watch this movie, and you are going to maybe like it, maybe not, but I'm going to make you fucking watch this movie.
Oh,
Well,
I've
that's
done
what we
that so
do.
many times with other people.
Yeah.
Not you.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have. Practical Magic comes to mind.
Wait till I make you watch Gone with the Wind.
Maybe I'll like that one, but it is quite a bit longer. But we'll,
It
we'll
is
talk about
super
that.
long
Right
and in
now.
the 30s. And in the 30s. Like the two of Kelly's biggest banes.
Today we are talking about Paris is Burning, which is a documentary from 1990, which technically fits into the 1990s documentary, and that's our current genre that we are looking at. We spun the wheels and we ended up in 90s documentary, and I was going first this round, so I picked Paris is Burning. Tell me, had either one of you ever even heard of this movie before we watched it?
I feel like I've heard the name, but I had no idea what it was or anything like that. But the phrase Paris is burning, maybe that's a common phrase used elsewhere or something. But I have heard that.
It was
I
the
don't know if it was
33rd part
related
of
to
the
this.
47%. Yes, I'd heard of it and I knew what it was about. But I hadn't seen it.
The 33rd part of the 47th%? What?
Yeah, of
Did I?
47% gay.
Oh, right. Okay, I was like, are we talking about the parallels or percentiles?
No,
or what are we?
we're talking about the
because it's
fact-
a Star Trek number.
You refer to yourself as 47%. That made me start thinking, and I'm like 33%, maybe a little higher. I don't know, but as 33% of the 47%, that's how I'm going to identify now.
And just for the record, I don't just call myself that. It's been clinically tested. 4 out of 5 dentists agree that I am 47% gay. So Paris is Burning is a documentary about the mid to late 80s, and it's the ball culture of New York City. And when I say ball culture, I'm talking about the gay / trans / just people that want to dress up communities, but largely the LGBTQIA plus community in New York City of the late 80s, even though we didn't have all of those initials to go with the LGBT at that point. It was just considered the gay community. I think at that point, most people, that's what they just called that stuff. But yeah, it's definitely, it's a rough around the edges documentary. You can tell this was not filmed on $1 million equipment. The actors themselves were not given the hair and makeup treatment. It was very, very gritty and rough, but also like that allowed a lot of the beauty to shine through, in my opinion, because it was very rough around the edges. So when somebody walked in and they were sparkling like a diamond, they definitely stood out in the room full of sweaty, smoky gay boys from New York.
You have space to do all that you intend to.
This movie is about the ball circuit.
A competition among gay people under one roof.
It's like crossing into the looking glass.
A house, their families, kids with broken homes or no home at all.
My name is Angie Extravaganza, and I am the mother of the House of Extravaganza.
I'm Willie Ninja, the mother of the House of Ninja.
Ninjas hit hard, they hit fast. We come out to assassinate.
I am Pepper LaBeija, the legendary mother of the House of LaBeija, and I've been around for 2 decades. Reigning, that is.
Some of them say that we're sick, we're crazy, and some of them think that we are the most gorgeous, special things on earth.
Sports and Neil.
They call them competitions. But believe me, they're wars.
This movie was released in 1990, September of 1990. It had a budget of $500,000, box office return of $3.8 million, which that's that's almost 8 times the budget.
Yeah,
so
good.
I don't know if that's considered a success in Hollywood. Maybe not. Maybe only the 8 times your money back is not good enough.
I guarantee you that's a success for the producers and creators and everyone involved in this, making this. You know, this is a very low budget affair.
And I would imagine that most people involved in it would consider it a success too, because this movie is very much what you would, when you think of documentaries, you think of like people bring stuff to the public attention that is like of health benefit or, of national security, like we did with the UFOs and stuff like that. Whereas this one is more of just like a look at this time of life in this one particular area and make whatever judgments you will about the good and the bad and the ugly about that, but this is just what these people's lives revolved around for many years, and I don't know if it's still going on. From what I heard, it might still be happening, but it's obviously nothing like what we saw in the movie. So, have either one of you been to a gay ball or a drag show or anything like that?
I mean, I've been to a club that had a lot of, I don't know if it was technically a drag show, but there's lots of drag happening and dancing. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Is that, I mean, technically, I guess that's the same thing without.
I would say a lot of times people wander into bars that have drag shows without seeing the sign, and they just see somebody dancing on a stage. You know what I'm saying? Drag shows in some places are probably like 5 nights a week. So.
I mean, you know, New Orleans, it's like at every bar 5 nights a week.
Yeah.
So
I can say that I've never been to any of the above, which is kind of weird. But I just haven't, like, they sell out so fast, first of all. I am not that decisive about things. I have to get things in order. So you go to do it and it's like sold out and you're like, okay, never mind. So.
I have never been to a drag show intentionally. I think I've done what you just mentioned, Keith, kind of like I've been in the room when a drag show was happening, but I didn't buy the ticket for that reason. I just happened to be there when it was happening. And it's more just of like, I'm 100% supportive of the drag community. Hell, even at the library I worked at, we had a drag story time a few months ago. 100% supportive of that. But for me, I get this weird cringe whenever I see somebody lip syncing intentionally. I get it if you lip sync like a sentence of a song as a joke or whatever, but if you're lip syncing the whole song, like looking me in the eyes while you're doing it, that is so high on the cringe level for me. I cannot deal with that. Like, yeah, who sings this song? The Eagles? Yeah, why don't you let them? So it's nothing against the drag performers. I just have a hard time looking somebody in the eyes when they're lip syncing. I was a big fan of Milli Vanilli until the fallout happened, and then
Blame it on the rain.
some drag artists with like, you know, cockatoo hair and like 10-mile long eyebrows and all, you know, done up to the nines, and they start lip singing and you're like, come on, I can't take you seriously when you're lip singing.
Yeah, this is fake. This is not a real person singing.
That's funny.
And they're like, blame it on the rain.
The irony of lip syncing to Blame It on the Rain as a drag performer.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Blame It on the Rain, Milli Vanilli was one of my favorite songs when I was like, I don't know, 10 years old. I had no idea what the fucking song was about. I still probably don't. I don't know. I haven't listened to it as an adult, but Milli Vanilli back in the day, I used to love the hell out of it.
I still know the words to it all. I had that tape. I bought the tape.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a tape.
That's why it came to mind, because it's always in the back of my mind as one of those songs I can pull out. Mm-hmm. But then again, so is Coming Out of Our Shells by the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles touring band. So, I don't know. My tastes are a little weird.
Out of our shells, we're coming.
But yeah, obviously this movie got a lot of got a lot of love from critics. It got a lot of love from the LGBTQI plus community. But it also got a lot of hate.
Oh, I'm so surprised.
Yeah, just by nature of existing,
hell, you could show this movie. I could have a free program at the library that I could say this is for adults, and I could tell them this is about gay ball culture. Gay balls. that never got unfunny. I'm sorry. I must be a 12-year-old boy, but every time they're like, these boys just love their balls, and I'm like, well, yeah, they're gay.
I feel like they were probably doing it on purpose too. Like, I feel like they got the joke.
Yeah, I mean, they were leaning into it. Yeah, absolutely. Like, the balls are gay content competition. And I'm like, well, I don't know. In my gay life, balls haven't been much of a competition. Oh, you're talking about... I don't line up with other guys and be like, oh, your left one is 30% bigger than my right one. That's...
My balls are more aesthetically pleasing than your balls. And you could be talking about...
Who's got big balls? She's got big balls.
Who knew that that's what they were singing about all this time?
Well, I'm upper class, high society.
All right, Keith, bring us in.
Oh, all right. Is it time? Is it time to talk about the good?
It is time.
One of the first lines that rung true to me, and I don't know if it's a good thing, but it resonated with me, was a direct quote, I don't feel comfortable being poor.
That's the first note I have too. Poor is not for me.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable being poor. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? Me too. Let's just stop doing that. I think I'm going to change my life. I'm going to stop being poor. I mean, according to the First Lady of the United States, that we can... Wait, isn't that the one? Or was that,
I thought that was
Paris Hilton?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're all kind of the fucking same.
Same person, yeah. Faces that can't move, telling you to not be poor. That's about right.
Have you tried not being poor? Duh, just stop buying your latte every other week, and that will afford you a gold bar.
I've cut out avocado toast, and I'm still not a millionaire. What am I doing wrong?
I never had avocado toast.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm still not a millionaire.
I had it like once just because somebody was like, you got to try it. So I tasted it, and I was like, this is strangely mild compared to how much people love and hate it. Like, how do you love or hate this? It tastes like meh.
It's the savory version of toast with peanut butter and something sweet for people who don't do sweet breakfasts.
When I've had it with bacon, and that's like cheating. So,
I mean, anything with bacon is amazing.
Bacon, yeah.
It's like being like, oh no, I had to get my foot chopped off, but they gave me bacon, so it's all good.
Now, I know for a fact that I got probably more notes than y'all, so I'm going to name like 2 or 3 of mine, and then I'm going to pass the baton to y'all. Okay. So, another one of my favorite things was I really appreciated the fact that the performers at the balls explicitly state over and over again that this is not satire. They are not trying to make satire. They're trying to embody what they see as another person's life. So, for example, when you have a gay man showing up in like military gear, and he's trying to look like a soldier walking through the crowd, they will straight up tell you that I'm not trying to make fun of a soldier. I'm trying to look like a soldier. I'm trying to pretend to be a soldier. So in a way, that made it more endearing to me, because if you mock them, then you're the one that started the mocking, because they weren't trying to mock anybody. Mm-hmm. They were trying to seriously, full-throatedly endorse or embody these different personas, and that makes it a little bit more, I don't know, artistically valid, I guess, that it wasn't all just tongue-in-cheek, haha, look at these idiots. No, it was, I like the way that man looks in a uniform. I want to look like that for a day.
Yeah.
I like the way that woman looks in a beautiful ball. I want to look like her for a day.
How much can you actually sell the task you've been given, whether it's, what were some of their characters, like Paris fashion, butch, military, Vogue,
businessman,
a lot. Yeah,
businessman.
And they just pick themes, and I'm sure it's a different theme every week, or maybe they have several themes every time they have a competition. I'm going to a party in a few weeks that the theme is 50s, so like everybody's wearing like poodle skirts and greaser shirts and stuff like that, So I really loved that. At one point, I forget which one it was. It was I think it was the mother of the House of Ninja. It's the guy that kind of looked like Freddie Mercury a little bit. He had the bushy black mustache, but he had the slick back black hair.
What's his name? He looks like the guy who did the Ghostbusters song, Ray Parker.
Oh yeah, he kind of does like a little bit more Hispanic version of that guy kind of thing. But at one point he was going to different prim and proper schools, like I forget what they're called, but the schools that you send your daughter to make her more of a lady.
Finishing schools.
Finishing schools. Thank you. Yes. And the irony of having a drag queen teaching women how to be more feminine.
Yeah.
Wow. Like, how validating must that be for the drag queen? I'm thinking, like, honey, you made it. Like, if women are looking at you going, how do I be more of a woman? Good for you. Like, some people consider the phrase passing or not passing for trans people to be an offensive thing. But I would imagine in that instance, it would be like, honey, you are passing with flying stars. Like, if the women are asking you for advice on how to walk and talk and move your body, then you're doing something right.
Yeah. He must have been probably the most successful one of the bunch, right? Because they showed him doing choreography for like models and commercial campaigns and stuff,
and some music videos.
Actually making a living off of what he did.
You said you didn't need her. You told her goodbye.
His slogan for House Ninja was my favorite, which was House Ninja, we came to assassinate. I fucking loved it. I would have applauded if I was in a theater. That's so good. But the main first good thing that I wrote is just like, it's so good to see, because they show the transition from them walking out on the New York street into one of these balls, and it's like walking into Wonderland, or it's like, it's the community that these people have set up for themselves to feel confident, be with like-minded people, and that's just, I don't know, it's so important for people who feel outcast or don't fit in society to have that. I found that for myself in like the Dungeons and Dragons culture in high school and punk rock.
Oh yeah,
that was like where I went to find, these are my people,
right.
And a lot of people, I imagine, in smaller communities, rural areas, there just isn't that, and just how important that is to have.
Right. That is my second good note too, is that it's giving people a place where they can be 100% themselves. They can be 100% comfortable and laid back. And that is such a rare thing to find. And it's so good for your soul when you do. So I just loved that.
Yeah, I put it as home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
these people found a home.
Yep.
The whole the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, and this is the covenant. What you're seeing there is the covenant of like-minded people coming together and supporting each other. That is a community made from shared interest and respect, not from I was raised by this person, so I have to stick up for them even if they're a horrible person. And it made me think of Renfest. It's in my goods too. I drew a line from home to Renfest because as a young man, growing up with a lot of interest in like medieval fantasy and D&D and all that stuff. And I was lucky enough where I had friends where we talked about that at school and we had a D&D group and stuff like that. So when I went to the Renfest, I saw just an extension of this community and my friends found more friends kind of thing. And it was wonderful. And I felt like I fit in really well. And then after I'd been there for many, many years, and now at this point in my life, I'm much older and I've been performing there for a few years and stuff like that. And I would see young people come in and they would be wearing the most haberdash, just thrown together outfit. Like some people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. This person spent maybe $1 on their outfit. But they're trying. And some people might be looking down their nose at them. And I was one of those guys that I would pull them over and say, you look good, nice to meet you. My name is Kelly, blah, 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 blah. And I quickly found out that a lot of these people that would show up, especially the young people, when I would ask them, what brought you to the Renfest? Like, are you a big D&D nerd? No. Okay. Are you into like a lot of medieval fantasy, like movies and books? No, not really. Okay. Do you play like medieval video games or something? No, not really. I don't really have a thing for medieval fantasy or anything like that. And I'm like, so what are you doing here? And they're like, well, I heard this is where all the freaks are. And I'm kind of a freak. So I just started showing up. And next thing you know, I've got like a lot of friends here. And it's funny to me because it felt very similar to what these balls were. I imagine there are some people that went to the balls. They're like, I don't give a fuck about balls. I don't give a shit about people dressing up. I'm just here for the people. And I mean, I'm part of a board game group, and I tell them all the time, like, the board games are fine. I don't mind, but if we switched the board game group and we threw out all the board games, I wouldn't give a fuck. I'm not there for the board games. I'm there for the people. I enjoy hanging out with the people. I'm there for the people and the snacks, is what I always say. The board games can go or stay. I don't care. Jamie, give me one of your goods.
I enjoyed all the rivalries. I loved the different houses and how they played off each other and against each other. Like, that was just so cool to see. It was like its own version of a sports, what do you call it? Like the NFL or the NBA or whatever. It's its own sport, basically. So.
Yeah, it was really funny to hear them describe it because they're called houses, right? And when he said a house is a gay street gang, but instead of fighting and killing each other, you're dancing. That's
Arrested Development.
Yeah, it's fucking wonderful. It's such a positive spin. Like even the rivalry has like a positive bent to it, where it's like, okay, well, let's go out there and we'll dance their asses off. You know what I mean? It's like
Tobias has seen this movie. Tobias from Arrested Development has definitely seen this movie.
Yeah, for sure. But they also, like, as much as they are rivals, they still kind of help support each other, and so it was kind of, it's just like, I really enjoyed that read on it, and I also enjoyed the fact that you're hearing all this slang that was around in really the late 80s that people are still using today, like shade and reading.
Yeah. Throwing shade.
Yeah. I'm going to read you.
And in 1990, throwing shade was a common term in the gay and ball community. And nowadays you'll hear a news reporter saying it on the nightly news. Yeah. But it's funny to me too, because to them, throwing shade was like the highest form of it, but it was less common.
Right.
Throwing shade was throwing shade was the highest form. The lower form was just doing a read.
Yeah.
And that was much more common. So, like, we have kind of supplanted throwing shade into the place of where I think a lot of these ball contestants would have considered it
a read.
Reading the other person. Yeah. Throwing shade is to the point where, according to at least some of the people we saw in this documentary, the difference is that when you are able to read somebody and say something that throws them off or insults them in some small way, that's doing a good read. When you're at the point of throwing shade, you don't even need to talk anymore. You can throw shade without a single fucking word. And that I was like, oh, so we've missed, like, what is the word for shade now?
Right.
Because every time we think of throwing shade, it always involves like actively insulting the other person, not, being the better person or bigger person and walking away, which throwing shade. And that's such a cool image. You think about throwing shade. I'm not saying anything to you. I'm just so big that you are hidden in my shadow.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I love that the people that are using these terms now probably weren't even alive when they were invented. So, like, you are literally using ancient terms, ancient terminology. You are quoting the old texts.
The sacred
This is the language of my people.
Yeah.
This is the language of my people. 47% worth. Keith, give me another one of your goods.
The positive inclusiveness, which is ironic of all this, because the inclusivity is apparently at a premium these days, and stock is unfortunately feels like it's going down and all this pushback. But it's just like, I don't know. There wasn't a big deal about it. It was just what you went and did, and the people there were doing it, and people are like working all week on their costumes and stuff, and it's just like, I want to see more of that. It's almost, I was debating whether putting that in the bad column, or maybe I'm just not in the right, I'm not a part of this world, so I don't see it as much, but I felt really, I don't know, uplifted seeing this this whole community on display like this.
I would say that, I don't know. So I obviously, like I said, I haven't been to any drag shows, but I have a lot of friends, and being in the theater community, I bump into the same groups of people. A lot of the people that I've performed with are also performing at drag shows. A lot of the people that wouldn't be in one of my shows, but they would be in drag shows, would come to our shows. A lot of crossover with the communities. And I would be willing to bet that what you're looking for, if you went to a local drag show, you would find it immediately. Because it's much more acceptable now, especially in certain areas. Like, it feels like the whole world is polarized more. The right has gone further right. The left has gone further left. And what that means is that if you go into a left-leaning area, if you go into a gay-friendly area, then you're going to find this kind of acceptance even more, because we as a community, I should say, and I'm not trying to be a spokesperson for the LGBT community, but just as a member of that community, it feels as if we have learned better how to support people. We've learned better language, better methods. We know the difference between a drag queen and a trans person, which they had no idea what any of this stuff was really. They didn't understand the terms as we understand them, but obviously they understood the life much more than anybody like I would. But yeah, I'd be willing to bet that if the three of us, for example, were able to go to a small local drag show, and I'm not talking one of the big, huge ones, just something with a bunch of people that know each other, where they're all supporting each other on stage, it will feel like a family cookout, just with a lot more Rhinestones and Celine Dion.
I do happen to have... I'm sorry, the image just hit me.
Hey, the gays, they love the Celine Dion. I don't know what it is, but...
I do have... one of my high school exes is actually a drag performer, and I do know that community does a lot to support each other through a lot of different things. So if somebody's going through a tough time, it's not unusual to see a brunch pop up just as a way to raise some money or anything of that nature, and they'll
100%
sometimes do it in somebody's backyard because they don't have any place else that's not going to charge them. But
yeah, it feels to me like that community still very much is loud, proud, and strong.
And then I'd say, talking about the inclusivity and the positiveness that goes into, I wrote down that they referred to, like, these aren't dance-offs, they're battles. They are. That's what someone says. It's like they are battles. And even the battles is still like a positive confidence building thing. You know what I mean? It's just there's
it's less abrasive than Eminem and 8 Mile.
Right.
Yeah, I yes, exactly. It's less abrasive than a rap battle. Yeah. I don't have too many notes through either column of this because I was just actually interested in watching.
Right.
I had to remember to write down notes. It was a good documentary. That's my main good, is that, like, because there wasn't a lot of fluff and bullshit. It was focused on these people telling their story.
Yeah, and it was the kind of documentary. What is it called? Where the filmmaker stays out of the way.
Yes.
We have no idea. It was directed and produced by Jenny Livingston, for the record. But we don't see anything of Jenny because she stays out of the way and lets them tell their story. And the story kicks off immediately. And without the camera telling you, these are the people you should be thinking about. These are the people that are going to be the interesting storytellers. The camera just rolls, and they edit it to maybe draw a little narrative through line, but other than that, you just find yourself drawn in. By the time you're in a half hour, 40 minutes into the documentary, you're wondering about the House of LaBeija. You're wondering about the classes that the mother of House Ninja is teaching about femininity. Like, you're wondering about that one trans woman that
rooting for them to get their modeling gig.
Right?
Because she was beautiful and she seemed so delicate and sweet. I mean, who knows? She might have been a horrible person. Who knows? But she seemed very nice and sweet. So, like, I don't know. And part of the thing about this documentary is, sorry, spoiler if you haven't seen it, but you don't know. They don't tell you. The documentary does not fill you in on what happened with their life. And honestly, I think that, I didn't live as a gay man in the 80s in New York City, but it feels like that's the way a lot of these stories ended for the people that lived at that time. At one point, somebody was a huge importance in their life. Oh, remember that person that won like 3 balls in a row and they were like the queen of the world for like 6 months? Oh, yeah, I remember them. Whatever happened to them? I don't know. Mm-hmm. And that's it.
They got their Andy Warhol 15 minutes of fame, and that was it.
And did they go on to get a modeling career, or did they die in a river somewhere? That's up to your own Rorschach imagination to fill in the blanks. Except for there was one woman that did. I don't know if it was if they identified as a woman or a man or whatever, but there was one person that was killed. We'll
talk about that in a later column.
Yeah. All right, I'll rattle through a couple of mine because I probably have a few more than y'all have. What was it? I think it was there was one older drag queen that we will talk about as we go. But the whole movie has her just giving like narrative about the scene from behind the scenes. And it's while she's powdering her face and doing her makeup and all that stuff. Well, I don't know. But either way, while they're doing their makeup, they're telling you the story about the differences between the generations. And they're talking about, when I was an early dancer, we were trying to emulate the balls of like the 40s and the 50s and the Marilyn Monroes and the Betty Grables and stuff like that. Whereas nowadays they're trying to do like military officers or woman walking a dog or random stuff like that. That feels weird to me, but whatever, yada, yada. But at one point they bring up that a lot of these young people, like I build my own outfits. I sew my own outfits. I trim them to fit me. Everything is made by me. And that is part of the art, is that I create the outfits that I'm wearing. It is not just me walking down a path. It is a creation from start to finish. Everything you see in front of me was created through my imagination and hard work. And they make a derisive statement about, a lot of these young people, they're just out there chasing labels. And you know what? Anybody can get a label. Any shoplifter can get a fucking label. And I was like, good point. I like that. The label is only as good as the person that's looking at it perceives it. Who gives a shit what the label says? I got a friend of mine, a coworker. He's a nice guy, good friend of mine. And he obviously is not making millions of dollars if we're working at a library, but he likes brand name stuff. So he's big on like getting iron-on patches of brand name stuff and making his own stuff. And he'll get a black T-shirt and he'll get an Armani iron-on and put it on the lapel so it looks like an Armani T-shirt. He's like, yeah, this T-shirt cost me $3 for the shirt, 50 cents for the iron-on thing, and it looks the same as a shirt that costs $300 on the Armani site. Like, okay, like, how can you both?
It'll probably hold up better too.
I will never understand. Like, God bless him. There's no hate or anything. Like, everybody's got different tastes, but there's a part of me that's like, I will never understand. Like, so you understand how arbitrary it is, yet you buy into it. Okay, cool. Hey, as long as you understand that it's just smoke and mirrors, my man. It's the same fucking shirt as everybody else is wearing. I love the fact that at one point we were talking to a young black man, and he was I would assume he's young. He looked like he couldn't have been much over like 20, 21 years old. Very exuberant, joyful young man. And it was a lot of times I interviewed him. He was like on the piers or on the docks, and he's got this book tucked into his pants while he's giving the interview. Mm-hmm. And I kept kind of trying to sneak a peek at what book is that he's got in his pants. It was Betty and Veronica comics. Yeah. I'm sitting here thinking, like, what is a gay man reading in the 80s? I want to know what book this is so that I can look it up and I can. Oh, it's a Betty and Veronica. Never mind. Okay. Like, God bless. There's no shame in that, but I was seeking like some tome of hidden wisdom, and it was just
these are the
50s.
These are the 80s.
Humor.
These are the ancient tomes, Kel. These are the ancient tomes.
Yeah. Hey, in the 80s, I loved my Mad Libs and my Choose Your Own Adventure novels, so I'm not judging. Right? I'm not judging. My last good is, okay, so we kind of touched on the fact that these people have kind of created their own culture, what we would refer to as a subculture, if you're not familiar with the term. So they've created this subculture that is totally welcoming to all their friends and family. Like, there's so many times, or even people they don't know off the streets, we hear so many times about a mother telling a story about how, Johnny came to me off the street. His parents had kicked him out of his house because they found out he was gay. He had nowhere to go. He was homeless in New York, so he stayed with me for a few months until he found work and got his own place. Wow. How awesome is that you're a lot of these house mothers are gay men. So you're a gay man in New York City in the 80s, and you're taking in a stranger off the street because, well, they don't have anywhere to sleep. God bless you all. I'm not even that's wonderful.
Right.
But it's fascinating to me that this entire subculture that has its own culture to it. Like these gay balls have their own rules and their own phrases, like shade and reads and all that, and it's all designed to be a mimic of a different in culture. So they are pushed out of the in-out groups. So if you're not familiar, you have in groups and out groups. The in groups are the ones that everybody wants to be. The out groups are the ones that get pushed out of society because you're not cool. You're not the way you should be. So this out group looks in on the in group, and they try to mimic them as much as they can. And this is a common thing that we see happen a lot of times, not just in New York City in the 80s, but then they end up creating their own culture, which I don't know if they even realize that, like, don't you fucking realize that 36 years later or whatever this is, I find your subculture a million times more fascinating than the in culture that you were trying to emulate. This whole time, you were trying to look like somebody else, and you were the fucking diamond, not them.
Yeah.
Right. Right, for sure.
That's well stated, Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you. And that's the end of my goods.
I have one more good, and it's completely unrelated to the movie, but it's still good. At one point, someone was holding a little Italian greyhound, and it looked like my sweet Dahlia. Rest in peace.
Oh, it did. I saw the
did.
picture. I was like, "Aw,
yeah,
little puppy." We had a day a couple days ago at the library. We were having everybody was having a really rough day. It was a very, very busy day. We got a new computer system. There's a lot of bullshit that's going on at work. And one of the library pages, basically the people that put the books away for us, he saw it. He comes up to everybody at the front counter. He goes, "Hey guys, I think you should look at this book. It's something that I don't know if we want this on the shelves because we might get in trouble." And he puts it on the counter and opens it, and it's just one of those big coffee table books full of puppy pictures.
Aww.
And everybody immediately was just like, "Aw!" And for the next 10 minutes, we were just flipping each page of this puppy book. From pit bulls to Pomeranians to big Great Danes to tiny Chihuahuas. They were all precious little boys and girls and pups. And
that is the best part of my job is that people bring their dogs with them to the bank all the time. I get to pet dogs all the time.
Awesome.
I love dogs.
Jamie, you got any more good?
I am done with my good. Most of my good overlapped with things that you guys were mentioning, and I jumped in where it did.
So let's go ahead, I suppose, and talk about our scene spotlight, huh?
Roll it.
All right. Well, the scene spotlight is all the interview pieces with, I looked her up. Dorian Corey is the name of the old guard drag queen. And, she was the first thing that stood out to me after like the third time they go back to her is she's putting on makeup the entire interview process pretty much, and it's all the left eyebrow. Like it's the entire time. I was
that one eyebrow is going to be perfect by the end of the interview.
I was laughing to my. I wonder if she's ever finished that eyebrow. But
yeah, the rest of the characters are going through like we have a time jump of a year at one point, so it's at least a year, and she is still fucking working on that eye.
And that just tickled me just thinking about that, which is that's just I'm bringing that to it. But what I loved about her character was she was so like it reminded me of like an old cab driver smoking a cigar being like, you got your Uber these days and GPS, we didn't have it back in my day, but that's fine, the kids are gonna do what they want to do.
She's got a low gravelly voice. She kind of does sound like a classic New Yorker.
Yes.
She doesn't have a heavy accent, but it is very like, the kids that come in nowadays, they try to act like this and that. And I'm just like, I'm just trying to be Marilyn Monroe. And you can tell she's a little bit older than the other people. She's not skinny like a beanpole. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was such an image. And the fact that if anyone came at her with any kind of insult, the obvious insults of, your voice sounds too low or, blah, 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 she wouldn't even fucking look at them. She had this air.
Yeah, she'd just be like, honey, I don't have time for this or whatever.
Right.
She would put in headphones and continue working on that left eyebrow.
And she was it's so again I'm talking about positive. Can you hear my cat howling in the
Yes.
I don't know. But so like more old timers should be that way to like
right.
I it's not for me. I don't necessarily understand it, but that's what they're doing, and that's okay. I'm just gonna still do my thing, and the world would be a lot better.
So much
more
better.
People had that,
and not even old timers. Literally everybody. Like it's not affecting you.
Yes.
So
I remember listening to a podcast years ago. And there was an Irish musician on there, and the conversation went to Taylor Swift, and they're like, "Oh, as a musician, what do you think of Taylor Swift?" And he goes, "I don't know, it's not for me." And they're like, "What? We were expecting like a bigger boisterous response from you, whether you love her or you hate her. And he goes, no, honestly, the world would be a much better place if more people just looked at art and went, that's not for me, and just walked away from it. That's all you got to do. And that's the way it felt like Dorian, is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah, Dorian, that's the way that she handled a lot of this stuff. And she even said, she goes, back in my day, we did Marilyn Monroe, Betty Grable, blah, 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 blah. These kids nowadays are doing stuff that I don't fully understand, but it's just a sign of the times changing. What are you going to do? And I was like, perfect. That's exactly right. I'm just going to, and like you said, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. If they want to do something else, fucking let them. I'm not the police of what you do with your life. This is one of the only places you can dress up around your friends. Why would you try to police somebody in that kind of scenario? It's like, to connect it to the Renfest again, somebody shows up wearing Jack Sparrow outfit. I might kind of internally roll my eyes a little bit because I see so many fucking Jack Sparrows that whatever. But you're here. You're trying to dress up. Who knows? Maybe you've been waiting for 10 years for the chance to dress up like Jack Sparrow, and you just heard of the Renaissance Festival yesterday, and this is your one opportunity, so you're giddy excited. Well, who knows? Maybe you got stage 4 cancer and you're gonna die in a fucking week. Who the fuck? I don't know what your life is. Like,
and if it makes you happy and you're not hurting anybody else, what the hell does it matter?
Yeah,
exactly.
And let's not even like. You can't even, because people will be like, well, it might affect. No, you don't know that it's affecting anybody. Shut up.
I had this moment in my life, and I came through the other side, I feel, on this sort of side of things. And I realized when it was happening, that I think they're South African musical group, Die Antwood. Is anyone familiar with
I've heard of them. Yeah.
I always thought it was D.
It's totally D. Antwoord.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm familiar. I've seen it written, but I never. Yeah, that's.
Well, anyway,
that's how familiar I am.
When I first saw that, I was like, my knee-jerk reaction was like, this makes me weirdly uncomfortable, and I find it kind of scary, and it's odd that anyone would be into that. I come from the punk rock scene with people with like 2 foot tall mohawks and shit, and I caught myself.
Freedom spikes.
Yeah, I caught
broken guitar strings.
I caught myself, and I'm like, this is just kids doing that, because I'm sure all that shit was scary and uncomfortable. And so I'm like, okay, well, whatever. Let them have their scary thing that puts old people off. I'm the old person now, so that's okay. Let the kids.
And you realize, and once you break out of that prison, that self-imposed or culturally imposed prison, you realize how stupidly arbitrary all of our choices are. Mm-hmm. I like Lord of the Rings, but I didn't like Beastmaster. Why? Well, I don't like people talking to animals. Well, Gandalf talks to animals. It's all fucking made up bullshit. Who gives a fuck? Right. And if you find one that you agree with more, if I like the Forgotten Realms elves versus the Dragonlance elves, who gives a fuck? Read your Forgotten Realms novels. Enjoy yourself,
or if you're
pal.
like Adam and you just hate all elves all the time.
Now that's just racist. We just call that racism, Jamie.
But yeah, so that's any other comments on Dorian Corey?
Dorian was awesome, just all around awesome.
I think we all agreed that, and you know what? Even if we said I didn't like Dorian, she just would have shrugged and not even given it any.
Yeah, should have been like, that's your prerogative.
I'm happy to see that when I go to her Wikipedia page, it is all female pronouns and shows that she later identified. Because that's you notice as I was pronouncing her, I kept using feminine pronouns because that was just what my mind was telling me. I was seeing a woman in front of me, just a woman with a deep gravelly voice. Hey, I've watched Simpsons before.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, her Wikipedia page is a ride. Like, it's kind of awesome.
I didn't have a chance to look through it all, but
she kept
seems like she was quite the character.
She kept a mummy for a while.
She seems like she would.
Yeah, apparently.
She seems like the kind of person where I wouldn't want to piss her off if I was in that circuit, and I'd like.
That's the best kind of person. That's my kind of person. She was hot and hostile.
She was hot and hostile. Yeah. Maybe that's why I was drawn to her. I find myself drawn to a lot of people in my life that are hot and hostile.
Well, with our scene spotlight out of the way, it's time to move on and talk about the bad. My first bad note is just someone said the phrase, and it's so sad that when you're gay, you have to monitor everything you do to, in that time, in that place, to not have that be known or not have that be too offensive to whoever's around you. And that's no way to live. That's so fucking sad.
Yeah.
Right?
That's one of my first bad note was the microscope of being the other.
Yeah.
And anytime you're the other, you have a microscope on every fucking thing you do. And what it made me think of, even though this movie doesn't explicitly talk about it, but it brushes up against it, is how black men in particular are always representatives of their entire fucking race. So if you have a black man that commits a murder, it's what's going on in these black communities, what's going on in these black families. If you have a white man commit a murder, it's, oh, he was a troubled young youth. It wasn't there. You don't ever look at a white person when they commit a crime and go, what does this say about white people in general? But people do it all the time for black men specifically. And I imagine that also falls into a lot of other things too. So if you're a gay man and you act like an asshole, then you are, to some bigoted people out there, you're giving them carte blanche to treat all gay men like assholes because you're a representative of your group now. So it's like, no, motherfucker, I'm not here wearing my I'm gay sticker and my union card. I'm just a person living a fucking life, and sometimes I say things that I mean, and sometimes I say things that I wish I didn't say, just like any other fucking person in the world.
I just, in general, the way people in their lives reacted, like watching, and it still happens all the time today, watching their families be like, you don't get to live here, you don't get to be that, you don't get to... It's just awful.
You can't use that bathroom.
Yeah.
Motherfucker, what do you care which bathroom I use?
And who's watching? Like, that's my thing. Like, so you're going to tell somebody they can't use the bathroom. How are you going to monitor that? Are you going to be the creepy person that tells them to drop their pants? Because that's where the creep is.
I can't tell you who I've gone to public bathrooms with because I keep my fucking eyes to myself when I'm in a fucking public bathroom.
Absolutely.
I'm there to take a shit or take a piss or wash my hands. I'm not there to fucking socialize and take a fucking census.
And if you're looking, then you're the creep. Just so we're clear. If you're looking and you notice, then you're the one being creepy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're looking around the public restroom of who's with you and you're really concerned about that, then that's a you problem, man.
Hey, are you supposed to be in here? Show me your genitals. Like, okay, I'm the bad guy.
It reminds me of that,
and that's the person I don't want to be in there with.
John LaJoy song, show me your genitals. Your genitals.
Yeah.
Show me your genitals. Your genitalia.
Show me your genitals. Your genitals. Show me your
so
genitals.
One of these little mini tangents I want to speak on, and the line that I put in my bad column was the addiction of seeking applause. And for some reason, there were a couple little minor storylines that kind of made me think about this. I see this a lot of times in like community theater, for example, and in those semi-professional productions that I've done, that you see people that get so addicted to sometimes the small smattering of applause that they get that they're willing to bend a lot of their values and do things that they wouldn't normally do. And I didn't see as many like values getting bent in this, but I did see a lot of people putting themselves in some really like going out of their way and doing a lot more extra and letting themselves getting upset, letting themselves get way emotionally invested where it causes them problems almost because they are so addicted to that applause. And I get it. We all want to belong. We're a communal-based species. We want other people to like us. Hell, look at Elon Musk, the richest man in the history of the fucking human race, and he is a cringe lord, and the number one thing that he would want to do if he could is make everybody fucking like him, but nobody fucking likes him, and that's why he keeps doing the shit he's doing. Yes. So it goes to show you that no matter where you are in the grand scheme of life, the number one thing that human beings want is to be respected and liked by other fucking human beings. Anybody that tells you, I don't give a fuck what people think, that tells me either A, you're lying and you know it, B, you're lying and you don't know it, or C, you're a fucking psychopath.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it gets to the point where you start bending certain things in your life to seek that applause, and that's where addiction is. Some people would define addiction as a behavior that has negative consequences, that you continue to do it even though the negative consequences are ramping up in their intensity. I don't care. I'm going to keep doing it even though I'm losing friends, even though I'm losing family, even though I'm losing money, even though I'm losing my health. I'm going to keep doing this thing because I love it that much. That is now an addiction. And I don't know if that some of these people, most of the people at these balls, they weren't in that, but I saw that same hunger of, this is the only thing I have going for me. I will sacrifice anything to get some applause from like 100 people in a closed, smoky room.
The bad that I want to delve into a little bit, and because you still hear it all the time, and one of the reporters asked them, well, how does this square with the women's lib? And
I wanted to punch that guy.
Right?
You could tell he was there on that. You can identify like sides that people are taking, and he was certainly one of the like a fucking muckraker shit stirrer. Like, oh, if this is so cool, then how does it sit with women's lib? And they showed him like 3 times asking people that.
Right.
And it's the same fucking arguments they're making nowadays. Just supplant
Absolutely.
the word women's lib for feminism,
Right.
or
DEI,
or woke.
Feminism and women's lib have always been synonymous. But my whole thing is, like, I want to talk about that a bit, because it is thrown around a lot. Like, oh, trans women wanting to be recognized as women is taking away from femininity in women. But the only people who think that are the people who don't like women anyway.
Yeah.
If you're sitting there trying to hold down laws that take away women's rights to choose, women's rights to easily vote, women's rights to make career decisions for themselves, women's right to decide whether or not they want to have children at all, women's right whether or not they want to get married. If you're incentivizing all these other things, you don't like women. So you don't get to ask, or you don't get to defend the women's standpoint, because you don't have the woman's standpoint in your heart. The most accurate way to describe what feminism is that a woman is able to make a choice for herself and act on her own without having to rely on anybody else to do any of that for her.
Yeah.
And that does not matter what you were born as. If you're a woman and you get to make those choices for yourself, that's what feminism is. And supporting that is what is feminism.
So I have long thoughts about feminism. It's something that I studied a lot when I was in college, because my degree being in communication theory and sociology, and a lot of it was based in gender ideology or gender identity and what identity means for a human, and that gets into feminism and how feminism is important for what we're dealing with. And so, like, feminism once was described to me, and I really like this really short definition. And feminism means different things to different people, but there is kind of a common theme between all of them. And it is kind of like equality regardless of your gender. Like, I don't care if you're a man, woman, non-binary, or another gender that has not been named, that you should have equal rights. We should have equal opportunities, that kind of stuff. And I remember there was a question brought up in one of our classes, and it was this. So we think of feminism as women not having to be exploited. So let's say brother and sister, and the sister is an exotic dancer and she strips on the weekends, and brother takes classes in feminism, and they meet for the holidays, and he says, sister, you shouldn't be doing that because that is exploiting of women. And she goes, don't you think I understand how society exploits women? This way, at least I'm getting paid for it. And the question is, what would a critical feminist say to these people? Would a critical feminist take the side of the brother? Would they take the side of the sister? Or would they stay out of it? And it largely comes down to this definition of emancipation. We think of emancipation as in like freeing the slaves. And that is right in a way. It's freeing yourself from something. And what we think about it in feminism is emancipation for a woman, for example, in U.S. culture would be understanding what the patriarchy is, understanding how feminism is a positive force for what you're looking for in your life, understanding the different gender role models and the power dynamics that exist between them. Once you understand the society around you, to a feminist scholar, you would be considered emancipated, because now you are free of the cultural dogma that has been, maybe not free, but you're emancipating yourself. And the theory, basically, according to what the teacher kind of threw at us in the class, and I found myself, it made sense and I agreed with her, was that once that sister is emancipated and she understands that she doesn't have to do that. You could stay home and be a trad wife if you wanted to. You could be a geologist if you want to. You can be a roller derby skater, whatever you want to, roller derber. And once you understand that, then you're free to do whatever you want. And that fits in perfectly with what you were saying, Jamie, because all it is just you have the choice. Feminism, what it wants for women and men and everybody really is, what do you want? Because feminism also supports men in the sense that, like, men, do you think that it's shit that men are a part of the draft and would be drafted first in a war? You think that sucks, right? Yeah? Well, join feminism because we're fighting against that. We don't want men to be put in a situation where they don't have a choice and their gender is the thing that decides their role, because that's not fair. That sucks. So, sorry, tangent. I could talk for hours and hours about feminism.
Yeah, we know. You just mansplained feminism. It's all good.
I was giving more context to feminism, but actually, and I was doing so in support of you. I totally agree with your statement.
That's very funny.
But it's like, coming from somebody that this is something I studied in depth in college. This is something that I took extra classes to learn more about it because it was super fascinating and I thought it was super relevant in our world today. I mean, I went through fucking Gamergate and all that bullshit. And to me, it's not very often that I get a chance to talk about feminism and how it interacts with our society and our politics and all that shit. And when this comes up like this, I'm like, oh my God. I'm like a dog chasing a car. Once I catch it, I don't know what I'm doing with it.
But basically my point is just that trans women, trans men, trans individuals do not take away from femininity or womanhood at all.
No.
Because there's no way for you to define a woman that doesn't exclude the women that you're trying to quote unquote protect. And again, back to the don't speak for me when you don't really like me, support me, or share my ideals. So don't pretend that you're protecting me when you're not protecting me.
Oh yeah, and if it hasn't been explicitly stated, this pod love trans people. Like, yes. Trans rights are human rights. Like some of my closest friends are trans. Some of I've been in long-term committed relationships with trans partners. Nothing but love for, LGBTQI plus, like, we all understand that we put the L in front because of how much work the lesbians did for the gay men that were dying in the 80s, but it could be argued that it should be TLGB because we wouldn't fucking have Pride without a trans woman and without Marsha and a lot of other people that were there that day too. So it wasn't just her, but nothing but love for trans people. So we will brook no transphobia or any of that bullshit in our we will, oh God, make a transphobic comment. We'll delete it after we take a screenshot and then we'll roast you on the pod.
Yes, goodbye.
And I might personally try to find you because the fury is there. The fury is definitely there. So.
I have no compassion for, and I'm not perfect. None of us are perfect. So we may have moments where we say something that might be questionable. Just tell us. We're all learning creatures. We're all trying our best in this fucking culture world.
You cannot destroy an idea. Don't you understand? That's ancient knowledge. You cannot destroy an idea.
The casual way that they discuss death in this movie. People dying, people getting beaten up, people talking about violence that are being exacted upon them by other bigots, and it's all coming from a place of bigotry. And I don't know if that's a bad or an ugly. I put it in bad because they seem to be
anesthetized.
Maybe this should be in the ugly. Yeah, maybe it's because of the fact that they were so calm about it. Maybe that's why I just wrote it in the bad. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe this belongs in the ugly.
Yeah, because that's just their lives and what they know. That's horrible. Yeah. That's the fact of the matter is that's what they know of life and the what is expected or common amongst that group of people. Unfortunately,
it reminded me of talking to people that have suffered from long-term severe depression, talking about death in general. Like, it's just another part of life, and that it's just, you never know when it's going to happen, and it might be violent and it might not be, and it's just going to happen and you can't do anything about it. So just live your life anyways, kind of thing. It's a very fatalist.
Yeah. Yep.
I had written down the shocking and upsetting number of these people who clearly felt the need for family and parents, and that's kind of where the house mothers came in, because them being disowned by their family, it made me so sad that that's another one of those things, like the death thing. That's just seems to be an overly common thread that this community navigates, is being disowned by family and finding new family. So it's good in the fact that they're able to find that. It's bad that they have the need for that in the
why
first
it exists
place.
at all.
Yeah.
Right.
I will never understand, and it's so prevalent. Like I don't know, out of the like 5 or 6 trans friends that I am close enough with to know, they're a lot about their life, even including my ex-boyfriend. It's every single one of them. Every single one of them was kicked out of their house at some age, whether it was at the age of 15, 16, because they started acting, quote, gay, or if it was later on when they fully came out as trans and their parent was not ready. And some of them, like, by the time that I met them in their life, they're on good terms with their parents again. And this is something that happened many years ago, and they've kind of healed from it and stuff like that. And I find myself, they're telling me the story, and I'm getting hot listening to the story, and they're like, whoa, 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 slow your roll. Like, I get where you're coming from. Thanks for the support, but we don't need to relitigate that. That court case has already been decided, and I won, so you don't need to.
And like, there's valid reasons to disown a family member, but not that. That's such a waste. You know what I mean?
A valid reason would be because they disowned somebody.
I was literally going to say that. Yes.
Yeah. My last bad is how quickly culture shifts. And this can be this is one of my mom's favorite statements that has gotten me through a lot of good times and bad times in my life is, this too shall pass. And that applies to everything in your life, whether it's whenever you're having a really good moment, stop and enjoy it, because it won't be here forever. So enjoy it while you got it. Whenever you're going through a really painful time, don't worry. This is going to go away eventually too. Everything goes away. And it makes me sad because, like, in some ways that's good. So when the culture shifts, when gay rights become, legal, then everybody is much more accepting, and the culture pendulum swings hard in that direction. But it also sucks for people that, like, when these people were going to the balls, to them, the balls were a sign of stability, of tradition, of home. And to think that if you went there 5 years later, 10 years later, their norms, values would be completely different. Maybe it wouldn't even be in the same location anymore. A lot of the same people would be gone. It'd be a whole new people in charge. Maybe the structure would be very different. Maybe there would be, who knows? Yeah, I've performed it in stages where I thought, like, this is the stage for this theater company. And then I went back and seen them many, many years later, and they're in a completely different place where they rehearse. They're performing in a different building. And I'm like, and none of the people this is the ship of Theseus. Is this the same theater? Because none of the people are here. It's in a different building. You're performing on a different stage. What is left other than the branding on the front of the building? And it just made me sad, because it makes me think of Renfest. When I grew up with Renfest, how different it was from now. Even coffee houses in the 90s, they used to be a sign of, like, no matter what was going on, I could always just go to the coffee house, find a book on a shelf, sit down and have a cup of coffee and read a random book for a few minutes. And I can think of one nearby to me, but they're getting fewer and far between her.
Yeah, most of them are very corporatized, gray, mass nothingness. But that one by you is the same one that I thought of when you said that. Like, you could tell that that's somebody who came up in that culture in the 90s that owns it.
Yeah. Yeah, they have bookshelves. They have a piano in the corner. They have a guitar on a little.
They have a community
says,
pantry.
If you're gonna play this, be kind. Yeah, the community pantry. Yep, they put up local artists on the walls.
I love that place.
And that's the end of my bads.
End of my bads too.
All right, well, it's time to talk about the ugly. I only have one ugly, and it was the gut punch ending of the murder/death of Venus. It just comes out of nowhere so suddenly, and we've been following her through the whole story, and her aspirations of being a model and getting some kind of fame. It's just all like, I guess we discussed that the likelihood of that in that world in that time may not have been too high, but it's cut to zero by someone taking their life. And it's like, what is it, like the last 3 minutes of the movie, they just kind of matter-of-factly state this stuff, and I felt it was mostly a positive, like almost heartwarming documentary until that point, and it pulled all the air out of my lungs. It was kind of shocking, because I was having a good time watching the documentary until that just came, and like it's an extreme bummer right at the end. And I guess that maybe that's intentional on the behalf of the filmmakers, because that's
I'm 100% sure
that's how this
there's not even any sad music or anything. They let you sit the same way you would if you were in that community hearing about somebody's death or hearing about the change that's happening. You don't, there's no sad music in real life. It's just matter-of-factly stated to you, and you just got to deal with it on the fly while life keeps going.
Yeah, it's very strong.
It's hard,
but it was also very upsetting.
That fills right into one of my uglies that I put. One of the people had said that the sign of, quote, a real queen. You were a real queen if you walked the streets of New York from your house to the show in drag, and then you got to the show without any blood on you. That was a sign of a badge of honor. Can you walk the streets of New York without a random stranger battering you in the middle of the street for a hate crime? Can you walk from point A to point B in a major metropolitan cultural center of the world without getting assaulted by a random person, without saying a word, without wearing any offensive signs, just walking from point A to point B in clothes?
And that feeds into one of my two uglies that I wrote down. And it is, how are we still fighting this same fucking fight?
Thank you. Because as you can tell, I have no fucking patience for this.
If you can walk, it's still a badge of honor if you can manage to walk down the street and not be accosted because somebody has decided that you don't look feminine enough to be a woman.
Yeah, fuck you. You don't look masculine enough to be a man. Oh, I love that line from Rent. And anybody that hasn't seen Rent, the musical, the movie, or whatever, it's fucking wonderful. And funny enough, this takes place around the same time. So like this felt like a documentary about another neighborhood during the time of Rent kind of thing. So if you're a fan of Rent, you'll probably love the shit out of this. But one of the trans character in the movie at one point says to a man that is being a bigot to her that I am able to get women that you can never get, and I'm more of a man than you'll ever be. I mean, not saying that there aren't there are some bigoted trans people too. Like no groups are completely devoid of assholes. There are assholes of every faith and everything. I mean, hell, right. I'm an asshole. I'm just an asshole of a different type. So, and that kind of leads into my point of I have written here just the fight for basics, just survival in general.
Yeah, man,
these poor people just happen to fucking to have a job, a place to live, and be able to go to hang out with your friends without getting killed along the way. Jesus Christ, this is third world country behavior. This is like when Americans grow up and they're taught about like, well, in some countries like Syria and blah blah blah, the people people just throw rocks at each other. They just shit on the side of the roads because they're just barbaric beasts. Well, what do you call this? This is barbaric beast behavior. Your culture, New York, 1980s, your culture was shitty. It was fucking horrible.
And I'd rather live somewhere where somebody's shitting on the side of the road than killing people because they don't like the way they look.
Yeah, and then you find out later that, oh, go figure, the people in Syria weren't shitting in ditches on the side of the road. That was just fucking propaganda.
Right.
You know, these assholes, these bigots, it never swings back the other way on them, right? Have you seen Ben Shapiro's gender-affirming eyebrows? Whatever the hell is going on there?
Ben Shapiro's gender-affirming eyebrows.
How about
I love it.
Matt Gates' gender-affirming Grinch look.
Yeah, just all that stuff.
I heard about these guys that are hammer maxing, where it's a TikTok trend where they take a literal fucking hammer and mashing their face to try to get it to. It hurts my teeth to think about that.
But that's fine if you're doing that. You know, it's so stupid. It's such a backwards way of thinking.
They just don't understand what gender affirming care is. They hear the word gender and they automatically assume it's something, and it's like, no, wait, stop for a moment, you fucking clown man, and think about the words you're saying. Like, whenever you shave your face, that's gender affirming for you. When you go buy a shirt and you buy a flannel that has a skull on the back that's on fire, that's gender affirming care for you. You are putting out, hey, I'm a man's man. Okay, cool. And you know what? And somebody just going out there and being, I'm a man's man, that's not even necessarily a bad thing. Rock your man's man look, man, and just be accepting of other people. So
I'm not a wussy. I got big bushy eyebrows suddenly, see?
But here's the thing is that they never expect that those laws will affect them, and those laws, those rules they want to implement are only things they want to implement against people who they don't like.
My mother, when I was growing up, so I had a good mom. I had a shitty dad, but I had a good mom. And my good mom didn't tell me anything about how to dress or how to look. And at one point I asked her when I was a teenager, I'm like, Ma, you never tell me anything about like what you think about how I look or what I wear or whatever. She goes, well, first off, you're my son, so of course I think you're handsome. But secondly, I'm never going to tell you anything about how you should dress or how you should groom yourself or anything like that. That's a personal choice, and you do whatever you want with that. And then she thought for a moment. She goes, except never let your eyebrows grow out like Donald Trump's. And this was like in 1993 or something when Donald Trump wasn't a political figure. And I was just like, to this day, no matter what I do, every once in a while, I just check my eyebrows to make sure they're not growing out. And then I see Ben Shapiro and I'm like, oh, maybe I'd be rich if I just let them grow out.
My only other bad.
I have one last bad, but go ahead.
Is
go ahead.
Ugly. We're on ugly.
Yeah, sorry, ugly. It's in my uglies. Is that we saw how it affected all the adults and all these adults getting kicked out and stuff, but it really hit home when you saw the kids that were no more than 12 or 13 who were on the streets of New York at 2:30 in the morning because they didn't have houses because their family kicked them out because they were gay.
Yep.
Like,
yeah.
Not only are you kicking your child out in the middle of nowhere, you're kicking your child out to the streets of New York. What do you think is likely to happen?
Right. You're literally risking their lives by doing that.
And they're like sidling up to the older gay men just because they want somewhere to go.
Right.
Like, they didn't say the words, but it definitely felt like, hey, mister, I'm cool. Yep. Can I come with you?
Absolutely.
Can you hang out with me? Because then I'll be safer. Kind of. That's what it felt like. And coming back to survival, all the shit that how much of their personality, how much trauma did that exact on them to a point where they are completely different people when they're 25 than they could have been if they were just brought up in a loving, safe environment.
Because you know that not everybody they sidled up to was safe.
Exactly. And that's part of like the whole point of like a lot of these. I guess that maybe it's not written in my ugly, but it's probably a good time to bring up that sometimes people will use these groups and these subcultures against people. I remember I was in a Magic the Gathering group that had different houses. We had one for each color of the different magic and Magic the Gathering. And we had, I don't know, like 50 people in the group. We had very big organized, huge meetings, huge games. It was a lot of fun. But then I found out later on that the guy that was in charge of it all was a guy that had a PhD in psychology. And he was doing like little experiments with the different groups to see how it would work out. And it was not with consent, let's say. He was kind of a shitty person. And I'm like, motherfucker. So you took this thing that was actually kind of cool, that a bunch of people getting together and role-playing Magic the Gathering wizards and having a great fucking time doing it, and you turned it into something fucking evil because, of course you did. Yeah. And I'll just let you guess what demographic he was. Mm-hmm. So I have one last ugly. Is this the last one for all of us? Because I want to be the last one. Is everybody done?
I'm out of ugly.
I'm done.
All right, so my last ugly is... This movie came out in 1990, and that was 36 years ago.
Yeah, it could probably be made today and be very similar.
No, I'm coming at it from the other side. 1990 was 36 years ago.
Oh, we're old?
1990 was almost 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Kelly, we discussed that my 21st birthday had its 26th birthday 2 weekends ago.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm 17 forever. Oh, my back.
1990 feels like it was like 10 years ago. 15. Not
disgusting.
But in the same way that 2020 feels like it was last year and 75 years ago. Like,
yeah. Yeah, I saw somebody at the library. There was somebody that I was music directing a show, Fun Home, and it's a very gay themed show. If you have ever seen Fun Home, it's about lesbian, and it's wonderful. And
great movie, great show.
And when I had first started doing the music directing, I had hired a piano player, and she eventually found out that it was all about gay stuff, and she bowed out respectfully. She wasn't, but I mean, she still did it for homophobic reasons. So even though she did it politely, whatever. And I was at the library a few days ago and I saw her and I couldn't figure out where I knew her from. And I was like, wait, I know you from somewhere. And she said her name and I was like, oh, I remember. You were my piano player on Fun Home for a couple of weeks. And she's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I was music director for Fun Home, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, oh, okay. I kind of remember. And yeah, and she goes, that was a while ago though, wasn't it? And I'm like, no, it was like 2017. Oh, yeah. That was almost 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. Excuse me, I'm going to go cry in the corner.
I had that heartbreaking moment last weekend when I was thinking about the new Resident Evil games, and I was like, oh man, they're putting out so many Resident Evil games in such a short time. 7 just came out in 2017, 10 years ago.
10 years ago, yeah. Like, not quite 10 years ago, but goddamn close to it.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh
Village just came out 5 years ago now or something, who knows?
Yeah.
It wigs me out all the time because I adopted Hella on March 11th of 2020. So 3 days before everything shut down. So to me, like, I've only had her a couple years, but no, I've had her for 6 years. She's not a little puppy anymore.
The relentless.
She will always be a little puppy.
Yes.
I don't know. I have a lot of people that when they tell me they have dogs and I'm like, I want to meet your puppy. And they're like, oh no, he's a dog. And I'm like, no. They're all puppies to me.
Yeah. Yep. She's 100. They are all puppies to me too. But when you start, like thinking about how you're caring for them and what you're expecting out of them and stuff, you got to look at reality of time. So.
Even if she's elderly, she's an elderly puppy.
Just an old puppy.
You betcha.
It's just I love animals and I love, yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, my dog Bailey, she's 11 years old and she's a good puppy.
I call my 14-year-old Rain a puppy all the time. She's my good girl, my little pup, my 90-pound little pup.
Yeah,
my 90-pound 14-year-old little pup.
Yeah, my 90-pound human years equivalent of like 100-year-old.
Yep, 108 in human years.
My big, huge elderly friend, the kid.
Yeah, it's like calling your big, huge elderly friend my little baby.
Yep.
Baby.
Oh, God.
No!
You found a way. Life finds a way.
I can't hear it. I can't hear the word baby without hearing it now. It's stuck. Okay, so even though we promised ourselves that we wouldn't do this for documentaries, we've done it for every other documentary, and I'm going to do it for this one. So when it comes to Paris is Burning, 1990, would you give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
You really want to do this? Here. Now? Yes. Okay. Let's do it!
I'd definitely give it a thumbs up. I think there should be more people seeing stuff like this because, it's the uncomfortable truths of stuff. The stuff that we put in our bad stuff. I feel like people have a way of compartmentalizing things, and like that's uncomfortable. So I don't want to deal with it. But actually seeing it and hearing it and seeing the effect that it has on people, I think is important to get those neurons firing different in brains. So I would 100% recommend this to anyone who, if you like documentaries, if you're part of the scene, if you're interested in drag culture, any of that, watch it.
History.
Yeah.
I agree. I think thumbs up. It is not your typical documentary like the style that we're used to now. It's not going to keep you on the edge of your seat. You're not going to be like, what's going on? It is a very day in the life of sort of style. So,
but it is very interesting. I don't.
Yeah, it has a cozy feel until those moments of violence just kind of sneak in out of nowhere, which that's probably intentional to make it realistic.
It's just not Dateline TV type documentary, which is 99% of the ones that are released anymore that everybody watches. So
it's kind of like they just put the mic in front of the drag queens and just go ahead and talk.
Yep. Talk about yourself. Talk about your house. Talk about your history. So, but it is very good and it is very worthwhile and it definitely has some great messages in there. So I say thumbs up. Just prepare yourself that it's not going to be
prepare
edge of
for
your
the bad
seat viewing.
Yeah, the sad ending.
And that it's not going to be an edge of your seat viewing. Because I think a lot of people would turn something like that on and be ready to be like engrossed and then be like, oh, never mind, and turn it off, and they're missing out on something wonderful.
Yeah, for me too, obviously. I picked it for a reason, so I would give it a thumbs up.
Perfect.
I think one of the things that you hit on, Keith, and I don't know if this is what you were intending, but I'm going to run with it a little bit, is that there are going to be moments if you watch this that you're going to be a little bit uncomfortable. And sometimes even as simple as like, there is a moment, I guess, at least for me, when I came to terms with my own sexuality, where you look at somebody and they're walking, let's say you're watching a model walk on a runway, and some models you're more attracted to, some you're less attracted to, but generally models are people that you're attracted to, and your culture tells you that when you see somebody walking a runway, you're supposed to think they're beautiful, or at least that's what they're trying to be. And there are going to be a lot of moments watching this documentary, at least for me, where you'll see somebody walking a runway and I'm not attracted to that at all. I don't want to have sex with that person at all. And that's okay.
Right.
You can still watch somebody walk a fucking runway. You can still look at somebody in a dress and not want to fuck them. That's
people are allowed to
okay.
be people without being sexual objects.
Yeah.
You being attracted to them is not why they did it. It's kind of irrelevant. And in some ways, if you shoehorn it in, you're being the creep, because nobody asked your fucking opinion on whether or not you think these people are hot or not.
Yep.
The people that they want their opinion, they'll know. And they'll get it, and they'll give them the opinion that will be appropriate, because it's speaking to a certain person. And I don't even want to say subculture, because you could have somebody walking down the street and they'll see this happening indoors and they'll stop and continue to watch it. Because I think the people that are drawn to this kind of this spectacle and this kind of competition or community, they're gonna find ways to do it. Whether you make it legal, whether you make it illegal, whether you make it culturally acceptable, it's kind of like when you outlaw abortion. You don't outlaw abortion, you just outlaw safe abortions. That's all you're doing.
It did make me think of the movie Zoolander in a completely different light. I know that's a weird tie-in, but like I just thought that was totally made up. The whole ball that happens in the middle of
cattiness
that.
and the
there's they partake in a ball. David Bowie is one of the judges at the ball. I just thought it was some sort of super campy made up thing that they put in the movie to make it extra campy. But no, it actually exists.
Construction worker. Oh, Jesus Christ. The only line that has ever stuck with me from that movie is, what is this, a blank for ants? Every time somebody posts a low-resolution photo.
Right.
Or something smaller than you expect it to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was Paris is Burning, 1990 documentary about the LGBTQI plus community, and specifically drag balls in the...
Drag balls.
Yes, you are a 12-year-old boy. Because you couldn't even say it without cracking up.
We all endorse it. We love it. We thought it was a really good movie, and we had a good time with it. This is the kind of not many documentaries will I come back to and watch again. I could see myself coming back and watching this in a couple years. Probably not right away, because it said what it needed to say. But I could see putting this on in the background or showing another friend this. It would be enjoyable to watch again, except for the few sad bits at the end. But next week it is going to be whose turn?
Me.
I'm behind Keith all this year so that I can torture him as necessary.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. All right. So what are you doing, Keith?
We are going to watch Trekkies.
Okay.
Have you seen this before, Kelly?
No, I don't think so. I think I've seen a lot of clips from it. Just being a Trekkie, I've seen clips, but I don't think I've actually watched the entire movie.
I can't wait to watch it with you.
Does it mock me or does it celebrate me? I need to know.
There's a little bit of both. Like
Do I need to wear my armor or can I?
I don't feel that it's one of those things where it doesn't. The movie itself doesn't mock, but some of what it shows you is just like, that's questionable. Like just, it leaves you to make your own decisions. But
well, let's be honest. We all know that every subculture does have its questionable
absolutely.
moments that need to be
But it's all in a matter of
so-
framing. Like if you put the
Right.
frame on those wackadoo people all the time, then it's going to make us look really bad. There are a lot of reasonable Trekkies like me.
But-
like I don't even own a single outfit. So
What I remember though is it's also extremely endearing and fun and like celebrating of people who Star Trek is a huge part of their lives. So and I find it to be an enjoyable watch. I believe it's in this one. There was a sequel. I can't remember which one it is, but one thing that I thought was like so fitting and fucking awesome is straight up Klingon metal bands that sing in the language. And I'm like, that is perfect. That's
Hell yeah.
1,000% like, yes, embrace that. So I'm excited to watch that with y'all.
sounds like a fun plan. I'm looking forward to it. Whether I get to yell at the filmmaker for mocking my passion or if I get to see, hey, those are my people. Look at them being cool. It should be fun either way. But for now, we're going to go ahead and end this. For Screen Share and Chill, my name is Kelly.
I'm Keith.
I'm Jamie.
Hey, go out there and do some ball dragging.
I was trying so hard to come up with a D's nuts joke, but just the drag balls on its own is doing enough lifting. So,
do you love drag balls? If you don't like drag balls, you will after this movie. You'll be dragging
these balls on your face.
Dragon balls.
Oh, good God, it got worse.
I'm going to call the police. You go ahead, call them. Call anybody you want. They can't do anything to me. Not anymore. And nor can any of you.
I don't give a fuck about balls.